I'm Steph Morrison from HSLDA Canada, and I am here with Cori Dean.
Yep.
Cori is from the Learning House, and what we're going to talk about today is about curriculum. I also want to share a magazine that we recently published. So this published at the beginning of February. You can get your digital copy, but this is our magazine here. So College and
Mhm.
Career Guide for Homeschoolers. Don't be deceived by the title. Even if you've got young ones or even just thinking about homeschooling, this is actually still a great read for you. Not only are you going to get the information just about really providing an excellent education, great content in here for that, but you're also really going to see how viable this home education option is for your kids,
Yeah.
and especially because we focus that on post-secondary. Cori, you've even had, I know you've got one you're homeschooling still, right? But there's
Yeah.
more that have
Yeah.
graduated.
Yeah. I've graduated 3 of my kids, still homeschooling 1. And what you're saying is so relevant for so many families. Like, as we are working with families all across the country, I'm talking with moms who have kids that are, their oldest kid is 14, 18, or even 4 or 8, and even preschoolers. They need to know this information about, is homeschooling a viable option for us throughout that will prepare them for next steps educationally. And this magazine really does a good job of addressing many of those questions about, can I go through this process of homeschooling my children and choosing this as the right path for them, and also enabling them to go on to next educational steps? And absolutely, the answer is yes. And there's lots of good information in there.
So the Learning House recently, I think last year was your first year you did scholarships, right? Or has it been a
Yes.
couple years?
Yeah.
We featured that, and we featured mainly so I'll just show this little page here,
Yes.
but I'd like you to be able to go and look at that yourself. So you can see this magazine at hslda.ca/cc-guide, and I'll put that on the screen here for you as well. I was just reviewing these, even though I reviewed them back when they were published. It's like, so we've got one attending Lakehead University to study concurrent education. The second one pursuing biblical and theological studies at
Mhm.
the New Brunswick Bible Institute. And then the last one here, enrolled at the University of Ottawa to study mechanical engineering and computer science. And I would still like to meet
Mhm.
these ones and even talk to these scholarship winners. Not that this is just like such a little sampling of what our home educated
Mhm.
students are going on to doing. So I just wanted to like kind of share that for you to
Yes.
understand the like there are really no limit, not that I've heard of anyway. There are really limitations to getting into post secondary, and that's kind of one of the great things
Exactly.
about this home education. We can customize and get our kids so ready and prepared for actually what interests them so much more.
Those were our winners from 2024. We're looking forward to awarding scholarships to our 2025 applicants soon. And like,
Mhm.
just the number of qualified applicants, it's just so cool to hear the stories of what these kids have done. Homeschooling is not the wide and straight path. And so it is narrow and meandering in many ways, and it's different. And so these kids have done some really cool, innovative, interesting things, or they've just been deeply involved in their family and their faith. And what a fantastic way to just launch into young adulthood. It's just really cool to be able to celebrate that, and to celebrate too the sacrifices that moms and dads have made. As homeschooling moms, we've put a lot of our heart into educating our kids, but there's not usually that like financial payoff. Like, we've given a financial we're at a financial deficit because we've given up earning potential as parents in order to be home with our kids. And that's part of what we recognize, that the Lord has just been really good to us here at the Learning House to be able to share in this way. And our number one ministry is to help families to do education well, to see them thrive. And so that was just like the natural outpouring of, if we can do this, we've got to be able to invest in homeschoolers that are going on to next steps. So pretty cool.
Mhm. Yep. Very cool. I'll look forward to hearing those scholarship stories for next year as well. So
Yeah.
our main topic
Yeah.
today is about
Yeah.
curriculum, and actually the curriculum really. I'm going to just speak on my experience just a little
Mhm.
bit of the curriculum choices I've made over time. So my boys are 14 and 17. So one probably still going to do another year, but really not full year. There's actually some work opportunities for him too, and And so throughout all these years of homeschooling, I don't even think I've actually really kept with the same curriculum. Definitely not for both my boys because they're a little bit different. They've got some
Right.
similarities, but I have spent a lot of time trying different things. And being okay with, this isn't
Yeah.
working. We just gotta try something else now. I'm not gonna wait till the end of the year or the end of this quarter.
Yeah.
This just is not working now. And it
Yeah.
is difficult because there are so many good options. There are some
Yeah.
bad options, and Corey, you're gonna share a little bit about that too, and maybe what to look for so we know what's not right. Either not right for us as
Yeah.
the educator or our kids, or just not right at all because it's not really covering that full curriculum concept that we want our kids to have.
Mhm.
So share with us first what from your experience, what parents are looking for um when choosing curriculum. What should we be looking for?
Yeah. Like I have one of the things I just really love about my job is I feel like I'm standing on a busy corner watching important things happen. And I'm a bystander. And so being able to walk through curriculum choices with families, we can talk about these things. I can give you ideas, but essentially, this comes down to what does your family need? And some of the really common things that parents want is like, I want a well chosen curriculum. I want it to be robust. I want it to be authentic to our faith. I want my child to have the opportunity to do things that we wouldn't necessarily do in a public education system. I want to be able to walk differently through education. And those are really important things for our kids as we are choosing curriculum for them. So there's not a parent out there that says, you know what, I kind of just want something that's of a mediocre academic level, especially among us homeschoolers. We're type A personalities. We want to go out and own this process and we're involved.
That all sounds wonderful. So share about how we can choose the best curriculum to meet the needs of everyone involved.
Right. Because we have these common goals. Like I just said, choosing the best curriculum doesn't mean that we're all going to find the same curriculum. And I often talk to moms and dads who say, all right, I just need the best science for grade 3. Tell me what's the best science. There is no best science. There is no 100% going to meet all the needs because we are all individuals, because we did walk down this meandering path where we said a standardized education is not what we need for this child. So, what's the best thing? The best thing is to ask the right questions. The best thing is to say, what fits into our lifestyle? What does this kid really love? What can I handle as a mom? Like, do I need something that's open and go? Or am I that mom who loves to like pull together the activities? I want to do the lesson, and all I need is a worksheet for you to work on. Do I need something that's going to pull the family all together for some subjects? Or would it be better if everybody stays in their lane for each different subject? What meets my budget? Like all of these things are really important questions to ask. So choosing the best curriculum, I think, really comes down to, did you ask the right questions? And if you ask the right questions, then I think that you can slough off the wrong things a lot more easily. So people walk into the store here or they look on our website and very quickly they go, oh my word, there's like 10,000 different pieces here. How do I find the one that I need? When we have a consultation, I'm often going to say something like, do you prefer videos or no videos? All right, that cut off part of them. We don't have to see everything. We need to be able to put on a blinder and ask the right
And
questions.
so what about that so much already made for you curriculum out there, great stuff. But we're also doing a custom education here. So tell us about that. Like, can we do our
Mhm.
own lesson plans? Can we create our own chorus? And I think your answer is yes. So share a little
Yeah,
bit what that looks like.
yeah, right. Like I run a bookstore. So I got a lot of books, but that doesn't mean that's the only way that we approach education. And we sell books, but our primary goal here at the Learning House is to help you do education well. And our focus is on making sure that the resources we have here are appropriate for a Christian homeschooling family. Now we have lots of resources that secular families and families of other religions will appreciate and use, and we work with families all across the country of all different faiths and backgrounds. But that's our goal and that's our mode of operation, right? Like we've got lots of books, but that doesn't mean that that's the only way it can be done. So even like with my kids, I've done lots of stuff where I've like built a course around the things that they've loved. And even as homeschoolers now, I know it's different all across the country, how much we have to report, how much we have to stick to a specific plan. And there are provinces like Ontario where you can wake up and say, "Hey, I'm a homeschooler." And there you go. My plan is my plan, and I can go with that. As opposed to other provinces where we know that you've got a lot more reporting obligations, testing, and outcomes that you have to meet and work towards. But the bottom line is that we can work towards those with formal curriculums. And it's really easy to say, "Hey, there's my English course. There is my math course. Here's a science course that says grade 4 on it." And you can do that. But there's also a lot of other ways to really enjoy doing, say, science. So whereas I could get you a book that says grade 4 science on it and it meets provincial learning outcomes, we could also do things like go to all the field trips, do all the experiments, get like a fun little experiment kit, or just get together all the resources and do lots of fun experiments, blow things up and build things and grow things and do all of the science activities where we can read really good books about different scientific discoveries. We can read books about nature. You can go and read all the like Thornton Burgess books and learn about all the different animals in the forest. And that can be your nature and science learning and your historic science. There's all kinds of ways that we can approach that in a sort of an organic way and make our own courses. And that's another one of those ways that the best curriculum doesn't actually exist, because there's the moms who would say, "Just give me a book. We're going to work our way through it. Then I know I've checked off the boxes." And other moms who say, "Oh, that would drive me crazy. We just want to do activities. We want to tromp around in the forest. We want to catch a salamander. We want to raise a butterfly. We want to grow the garden. We want to raise the chickens." And that is our science. And it's such a valid way of doing learning. So no, you don't have to have formal open and go courses, though it does help to quantify things a little bit better. And in some ways and in some areas, we have to quantify more, but we can also build those things and have a very vibrant education without necessarily having something in a
Now
box.
there are a few things in it, and pretty much, I shouldn't say pretty much, but all across Canada, there's some really subjects we do not want to avoid at all, as much as they're difficult, like math. Like if
Right.
I could just know, math actually is math is
Right.
just hard, and you hear that all over the place too, where there's some kids struggle a lot. So I think it's
Right.
probably the most common struggling
And some moms,
subject that
right?
I hear over the years. But
Yeah.
so tell us about those sort of really mandatory. I'm going to use that word lightly, but I'm just going to say it,
Non-negotiable.
mandatory subjects, and then those that are more
Yeah.
interest based, and we want to include those as well too, though.
Right. So what are the basics of an education? And like, I just opened up this Pandora's box. Like, science can be 800 million different things to study science. But sometimes, like, let's put the blinders on and go. Like, moms will walk into the store, moms will call me, we'll get on the video, and we'll meet at a conference, we'll get on a Q&A, and they'll be like, "There's just too many options, and that's overwhelming to me." And we got to slough away some of that. So when we do a curriculum plan, usually what I'll say is there's like some really bare bones pieces that you need. These are the pieces we want to focus on. And the rest of it is not optional, but it's optional in the sense that we can choose how we want to do that. How much, what content, how often, what modes, and so on. So what do we have to do? Every kid needs language arts and math right all the way through. There's like that little percentage of kids that don't need to have like the upper level maths, but otherwise we're doing math and language arts from the time you're tiny. From the time you're tiny until you're old, because numeracy and literacy are integrated into all of life. They are what we need in order to communicate well with people around us, to manage our budgets and care for our families and go on to next learning, to be able to do the geography and the science and the poetry and all of those other things. So numeracy and literacy skills are the ones that we have to be focused on. And I would always call those disciplinary skills. Those are the ones where we have to build skill upon skill, or Charlotte Mason called these things the gymnastics of the mind, that you have to be working on, like building a muscle by repetitive use, the way that you would with gymnastics. I often use the analogy of hockey. I know how to play hockey. I know the rules of hockey, and I know when hockey is being done right or wrong, but you don't want me on your hockey team. I am not a good hockey player. I'm like, even when I was like young playing all the sports, I was not the one that was being chosen first. I was being chosen last for the team. I'm not coordinated. I'm not great at it because I didn't practice it. So something like literacy and numeracy skills are the pieces that we have to be practicing regularly, because you can tell your kid how to spell, but if they haven't practiced spelling, they're not going to be good at it. You can tell your kids what's the difference between multiplying and adding and how they're related to one another and what 3 times 3 is and what 9 times 9 is. But unless we practice it, it's not in there and it doesn't become regularly a part of our vocabulary and our ability to use it. So we have to build skill upon skill. We can't put all the kids into grade 3 math this year and then say, next year we're going to do grade 6 math because it looks so interesting. And the year after that, we're going to do just addition and telling times. And then the year after that, we're going to do trigonometry. We don't do that with math. We have to build our skills in that. And likewise with language arts, we start with our little tiny baby skills, like I learned the alphabet and sounds that go with those letters. And then I start to put them together and to learn to decode words and how a string of letters means something. And then I learn how to push my pencil across the paper in an organized way and with skill in my little fingers. And it's not until I do that that I can start to spell for myself and to write and to compose and to do all those things. So we have to build those skills, those phonics and handwriting and spelling and then writing and grammar and composition and research skills. All of those things build one upon the other. And those are the pieces we got to stick to. And we don't have to stick to all of them all the time because we're not going to do phonics in grade 12. And we're not going to be doing research papers when we're little bitty babies. So these pieces we're going to do, but we're going to keep on building on them. So math and language arts, they're the core part of any educational plan. And if you are that mama who's like, we just moved, I've got a job on top of all of this, the baby's not sleeping, I'm caring for my aunt who's sick, I've got, I took the dog to the vet last week and it just didn't work out well and everybody's distraught. Like all of those things, they close in on our educational plans. And those are the times when we go, it's okay if we didn't do science this week. But if we try and get to these bare minimum pieces, and for a Christian homeschooling family, I would say my bare minimum pieces, language arts, math, and time in the Word, then that's it. That's okay. The other pieces I would call discretionary. Things like science, history, geography, art, phys ed, music, poetry. Maybe it's like economics and law. Maybe you guys are a family that's all about being civically active. Maybe you are a family who is very into music and you're like participating together in worship at your church or in musical events or competitions, or you're really involved in like some sports and activities. And a lot of homeschooling families too, they homeschool because they are very involved in arts or sports. And so those are the kinds of things that you get to decide. What is it that makes our family hum? What is it that we need to really focus on? What are the times when we can do this and when we can't? What are the ways we can do that? And we can be very, very discretionary with those pieces, especially in the elementary years. High school years, we get more formal because we're working towards like moving on to next educators who want us to check off boxes. But in the elementary years, we can do things like, hey, I want to do science on Mondays and geography on Tuesdays. And I like science twice as much as geography. So I'm going to do science on Wednesdays and history on Thursdays. Or I can be the family that's like, we did science all through September. So in October, we did geography. And we can do that by, like I said, opening books, by reading good novels, by going out and doing the field trips, by doing the activities. And we can also do that by saying, hey, this year we're going to study astronomy, even though all the kids in school are studying botany. Because you know what? If next year this child needs to go into a formal program in a public school or another formal program, then whether they've done astronomy or botany is not going to influence whether they're prepared to do some chemistry or to learn physics. So there's a big difference between the pieces that I really need to do and when I'm an overwhelmed mom. Let's focus on those little pieces, and the rest of it can be just great ideas that we put into their space and we go through them as we can, and we never leave them to the side. We don't forget them, but we put them in turn into that rotation. I stick to my language arts and my math and my Bible. And then I do all this other stuff because it would be sad if we didn't do them.
And it's a
They're
great way
they're
to
fun.
really identify for our children as well as us as the parents guiding them what their interests are, right? So as my, in my homeschooling stage right now, both my boys are kind of in those teenage years. So we're
Mhm.
thinking a lot about okay, well what do you want to do? And I'm really trying to make sure that there is
Yeah.
um a variety of things that they get to experience. So, um yeah, I think that's important, like, that just expose our kids to as much as we
Mhm.
can.
That's it. That's it. That's the general education, like the stuff that everybody needs to do. Language arts, math. We should all do science and social studies. But, like, especially in the high school years, our kids should imagine a lot of the things that entertain them, that and thrill them, that they are excited about, that they're skilled at, that they're gifted at, that they love to do, that they have an experience with that's unique. So our kids should be looking at those experiential pieces and at those broad pieces that help them to go out beyond what they would have done before.
Okay, so with so many great options out there for education, doing the really required stuff and delving deep into that optional, um, for each of our kids, giving them that customized education, uh how can we identify what is the good kind of curriculum, what isn't? And maybe even if you can give those pointers on how do we not choose the wrong ones? Like is there anything
Hmm.
you can give us in that direction? And
Yeah,
and maybe just wrong for our family too, right? But that way. But
right.
there's definitely curriculum out there that I've
That
heard
is of
talked
lower
about
quality.
that is not good.
Some things to keep in mind is that homeschooled materials tend to be made for parents, whereas traditional educational materials are meant for qualified teachers to use. So, a lot of times, the wrong materials are the ones that are of a traditional schoolish intent. And so, there are, for example, resources out there where we just don't carry them because the teacher guide's $800 and we have to get a class set of 30 student books in order to be able to make them available to a homeschooled family. That's not going to serve a mom. And more than that, these traditional school materials tend to be um, supplementary in nature because they're made to work alongside of a teacher who has been taught how to deliver content to a student. And so these pages are meant to come alongside. So many of us are familiar with the kinds of books that you can get at grocery stores and department stores that say, here's the grade 5 curriculum. And those are meant to complete the curriculum that is being taught in school. They're meant to come alongside a teacher who has given a well delivered lesson and who has given some practice to that student. And that this is just some additional practice to complete what we've been doing and working along with. Do they work? Yeah, sometimes they do. I talk to families who say, you know what, that's been great for me because I'm a certified teacher or because I'm just a math geek and I love all this stuff. I love telling my kids these math lessons. I love pulling together games and activities and giving some supplementary stuff and just using that as my bones to say, did we do this subject? Did we do that subject? But for the most part, many of those mainline curriculums are meant for supplementary material, even though their names might suggest that they've done a full curriculum. So, how do we choose the right materials? Look for something that has proper instruction, and there's different ways that that is delivered. For a homeschooling parent, you might get a teacher guide that is scripted, and those ones are really nice. Mom, pull out this item, put it on the table, say this, and point here. Those are really great for a lot of moms. Fully scripted options. Then there's some things that are like kind of hybrids of here's some scripting, here's an activity you could do, here's another way to approach that, here's some extensions. But the key pieces are there in the teacher's guide for you to work with. And then you have a student book for them to work from. So those are more traditional curricular materials if that's what you're looking for. Some less traditional might be ones where the content is all in the student book, and those would be called self directed books, where there's not a separate teacher guide, or that teacher guide might just be like a marking guide, but choose something that's going to have the instruction that is right there in the student's book. So if your student needs to know how to do it, you're going to sit down with them at this book and read to them and discuss that, make sure that they understand that, and then they can go on to do their work. Or maybe they're old enough to read that and work through it on their own. And many homeschooled materials are made with that in mind, that mom and dad are the facilitator. They're not the deliverer of knowledge, but they are the ones who help to keep you on track, make sure that you did the right lessons in the right days, that we're kind of getting through this at a right pace. They help you with questions when you're having a hard time. They mark things. They might say, "Oh, yeah, that was a really great idea. Let's like talk about that or find something that sort of helps us to jump off and enjoy this topic a little bit more." But the bones of that material is right there in the student text. So, not just choosing quality materials, but what we talked about before about choosing the right pieces for your family. Does it fit your budget? Does it fit your learning style? Does it fit your teaching style and does it fit your child's learning style? Those are really important pieces, but also evaluating materials to make sure that they are complete. And if they aren't complete, go to the effort of getting the extra pieces. I can think of quite a few really good phonics programs that are not full programs, but they're like workbooks. And they're really good workbooks that many parents will use without a teacher guide because they're just commonly used. And oh, yeah, everybody else has got this one. So use that, grab the teacher guide to help you to learn more, but also do with your phonics, it's never going to be just a workbook. It's going to be, grab some readers, play some games, get out the letter tiles, go on little hunts to find the words that start with this letter, this sound. Do those kinds of things that make it a hands-on activity and take it off the page. Because if you just get a workbook for it, you probably are missing some of the pieces that a classroom teacher would be expecting to deliver themselves or that a creative mom might come up with on her own.
Makes me think of the question, or sorry, not even so much a question, but I guess a comment for those that aren't homeschooling. It's like, I could never teach my kids. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I don't really teach my kids. I mean, I do teach them some things, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily teach them this more the real education they're getting through
Yeah.
math and right. I am just finding the resources that work well, and I do have some of my areas of expertise that I can do some teaching in, but even actually those areas that I know really well, just because of my profession now, I
Yeah.
actually still get curriculum to go through, and it's because it gives
Hmm.
it even how you're talking about for math, right? There's one concept that builds on another, that builds on another,
Hmm.
and lots of these programs, so programs, curriculum, courses, they come from that standpoint of those who develop them. I've also got the data and the really concrete ways of
Yeah.
how that brain works.
Yeah.
It works best when you
Yeah.
learn this concept and this concept, and
That's right. And then we become the learner alongside of our
yes.
kids. And we don't become the bearer of all knowledge, but we are doing this journey day by day, side by side together. And we can say, gosh, yeah, I agree, kid. This is tough stuff. Let's do this together. We're going to make it through this rather than having to be the person. And that's where those moms will commonly say, I could never do this. It's too hard. Yeah, it is if you do it in that schoolish way, because you have to get a degree upon a degree in order to be able to just first come in front of our little people who are learning their ABCs. But that's not the way that education has to be done. You don't have to have that. If you have well chosen materials, they will bring that content to your child, and you don't have to be the bearer of all of that. And the classroom model, the traditional classroom model, brings us to this idea that I have to be the bearer of all knowledge because that's what we expect of our classroom teachers.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's kinda getting rid of some of those myths of what home education is. They think it's just sort of
Yeah.
that school at home, and that's not really that. I know some
No.
people who have that curriculum, and it's still homeschooling curriculum, though, so as you've already described, it's done a little bit differently knowing that a parent is just following along with it, and it's like we can learn too, right? We can learn how
Yeah.
to
And
deliver education.
yeah, and it becomes a highly relational model. And this is really what most of the parents want to get in. Like, I want to be there in the trenches with my kids. I want to be there when they go, I get it. Like, why? Like that was one of the things that first brought me to homeschooling. Like this precious little bundle of mine is going to go into a classroom with a teacher who's got 30 kids that need to go, okay, I got that. I figured out this reading thing. And she did that last year and the year before and the year before. She's just done this hundreds of times. And she's not going to go, cool, when my kid goes, oh, I get it. Like, I want to see that. I want to participate in that. And that's what makes homeschooling this very highly relational model, that we are working alongside of our kids and going, yeah, you got it. You can do this. Or that was super hard. I agree. Man, that was hard, but we did it, and we did it together, and then we can discuss it, and we talk about it at the dinner table, and, like, that's the educational part. The rest of it's just books and bones, like, it's just a framework for learning.
Yes, good way to put it. The educational part is a lot more the relational part, right? And what
Mhm.
we're seeing in them and what we're encouraging in them. And yeah,
Yeah.
the achievements and the victories. And then even the like, oh yeah, you've done this core or you've done this lesson 3 times. And talking about math here again. I have a
Yeah,
program and sometimes I do sit in there with them because they just aren't getting it. It's like, okay, now I gotta
right.
learn this concept. So let's watch that video again so I can learn it.
Yeah, and it's
And
hard.
then I think I can,
Yeah,
I can get them through that, right? And get them over
yeah,
that little hump, but
and we're seeing, gosh, this is hard for me, and you know what? Like, if math is that thing that's really hard for you, then there's that curriculum, and it's got a video. And you can get the curriculum that's got a video and somebody to mark it, and somebody who can answer the questions. Like, there are those options. There's always those options. But when we go through these tough things together, there's two really big lessons that we're working on with our kids. And in a classroom, they just get a teacher who's an expert who delivers content, and they have trouble with the math, and then they ask for help, and then they learn the math. But when you're at home and you're struggling with it, and we like walk through this process together, and we can say together, yeah, that was really hard, and we did it. We've learned two big lessons. We learned the trigonometry, but we also learned that resilience and how to walk through it and how to work together and how to do hard things and all of those kinds of things that are so, so, so important. Our attitude towards it and stuff. Like, all of that stuff is hugely important. And we get to be a part of that as parents. Like, what a privilege, what responsibility to be able to be a part of that and to have this bigger idea of what education is. So it's
it
not
is a
just about the books.
responsibility, but yeah, I find that one of the biggest, like just the most rewarding responsibility we have as parents,
Yeah.
educating them and moving alongside with them as they're growing and developing. We're not just seeing it outside, outside of that. Like we get to see the educational part, the learning part,
Yeah.
as well. And I feel, yeah, I mean, I'm so blessed to have realized this magnitude of what home education is, and it started from the beginning, and it's just hopefully whether those that are watching right now are educating their kids now, or maybe you're thinking about it, that is like one of the best things you're going to find as a parent,
Yeah.
and that you don't even know you're missing out on when you send your kids to school. Because I did send one of
Hmm.
my kids to school, and I honestly I did not
Yeah.
really think about that part at all. It's really only after educating my 2 younger boys for a while, when I say for a while, I've educated them but really it was into when they were getting to, be 10 and 7, and I've just already witnessed so much of this growth. It's like, yeah, I missed that with my older son.
We should never give people this idea that homeschooling is this magic bullet that's going to make everything go well, that we're going to relate well to our children. We're all going to get everything's going to be all sweet and kumbaya because we homeschooled, or that all the kids that went to school are going to be messed up, because that's not true either. But that there is so much opportunity for relationship. There's opportunity for us to do together, to learn together. And I mean, even just last night, I have two of my girls living at home. One's finished school. She's finished university now, but she's still living at home. And another one that's still homeschooling. And the discussion that we had at the dinner table, and just the ideas, and like, this was a discussion about literature and theology. Like, it was like popping my brain, some of the things that these kids were discussing, but they were discussing it together with their dad, with me. And that was education, because I just kept thinking, here's this 16-year-old who's just sat in on the like synopsis of a university level literature lecture. And how is she not benefiting from this? How are we not all benefiting from this? Because this is a valuable discussion to have about the interaction of theology and literature. It was pretty neat.
Yes, that does sound neat. So you are the curriculum consultant for HSLDA members. So you do a
Yeah.
number of consultations one-on-one with our members. So share a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. So I do homeschool consultations all the time. I probably do a dozen or 15 every week, talking to moms and dads. I love coming alongside in this journey and in doing a consultation through HSLDA with your HSLDA membership in particular. It's a little bit different, a little bit more formal. We're going to take some notes and write some stuff down and make some recommendations. But basically, you're going to call into the office or write in and say, hey, I want to meet with a curriculum consultant. They're going to make an appointment at a time that works for both you and I. And we have about 45 minutes to an hour then to chat. And you're going to be able to tell me, I really want to talk about this part of our home education and this part that kind of needs some tweaking or that I have some questions about or that I want you to critique. And then we're going to start by doing that. And usually what I'll do is I'll say, hey, I hear that we're talking about our high school sciences and other high school courses. Tell me what's been going well, what's not. What do you feel is needing tweaking right now? And so then we talk about what's going well. We talk about what kinds of pieces we want to improve upon. Because when you tell me what's going well, that helps me to know, I see this is a kid that really thrives with this, or, this is a really arts-minded student and they don't really like the science. And that's why we're talking about this, or we need a different mode of delivering this education. Or we have a goal that we're working towards and we're not sure how to get there. And then we start to talk through things in a structured way. And usually what I'm going to do is, unless you're like directing this and saying like, we just need to talk about this part and compare these things, I'm going to say, what are we doing for those core pieces? Language arts and math. What have we done before? Is that going well? Do we need to change that? Let's make a plan for what those language arts and math looks like. Now let's look at that second layer of stuff, the more schoolish subjects. What's gone well? What do we need to change? What are the pieces that, answer those questions? What do you need, mom? What does your kid need? What kind of style of learning and teaching resonates with your family? And what's your budget? Let's keep within budget because we can do this. We can deliver a high quality education within budget. I can guarantee you that. And so let's talk about those pieces and we'll make a plan. So we've talked about language arts and math. We're talking about the other schoolish subjects, science, history, geography, and at the high school level. Did you do an art? Did you do some phys ed? Have you studied? They've done some indigenous studies, like those are required in some provinces. Are you required to do French? Are you required to do whatever? Have we done those pieces? And then let's talk about all the other stuff. Like, what do you love? What are you experienced at? What are you gifted at? What does the world need? How can you contribute? How can this child provide for their family, and what are the things that really get them excited and passionate? Let's make sure we don't miss those things, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be properly preparing them for their adult life. So first layer, let's talk about language arts and math. Second layer, the other schoolish subjects, and then all of those rich other things. And if we need to, if life is overwhelming, if all of the things are just kind of going chaotic, we can just stick to the centerpiece of that. And that is often just where we start. And that will be, that's where our consultation is at now. And the rest of it, especially for our elementary students, can just be do the fun things. Go on the field trips, read the books, check off that we did some science, that we did some history, that we did some math. If you have a facilitator who's saying, hey, make sure you do pioneer studies, choose a couple of good books, then do it. And then let it go, because the key part is science, or is language arts and math, and letting your kid know that you love them and helping them to love learning. Because if they can have that relational piece, they know that they can come to mom and say, gosh, it was really hard, or I'm really excited about this. Then we can move forward. And if we can say, I really love learning, then I can find the other pieces that I need, as long as I've got those core pieces. So then we talk about those things. I'm going to write down some recommendations for you. I'll usually make some notes. I might give you some links to resources on the Learning House website or on other websites if we don't carry those things. The caveat is that usually if I really love a resource and I think that it works well, or we have parents that say it's working well for them, we try and bring it in here. But if it's not something that we can provide you, I'll give you those links. I send that to HSLDA. They keep notes to say, hey, if you ever need to look back on these things, or if you have somebody that's challenging your homeschooling process, we can say, this person has gone into this with diligence by making a plan with our consultant, and then they're going to send you those notes forward. That's what a consultation looks like. And we can do that once a year.
That's great. Yes. And we encourage you to do that. These are great resources that you have as a member, as an HSLDA member, to use these and get, it really is the planning, and whether you have reports to do or, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
province you're in, right? There's different requirements
Yeah.
that some of this stuff is really useful for. But I just actually really encourage people to like have a really good plan set out, as you talk kind of that curriculum plan and
Mhm.
I really was not a great planner in my earlier years, but I would say the last 5 years and interestingly enough, right, that coincides with as my kids got older and into high school and I'm thinking, okay, I
Mhm.
need a bit more. And I am in Saskatchewan now, but I was in Ontario where you don't really need to do anything
Yeah.
for reporting,
Yeah.
right? So but I see the importance for that even more so now, especially because my kids are older. But I
Mhm.
could see how it would have been important when they were younger. It went well. My kids are, my kids are doing good. It's not that it's completely necessary. I think getting a firm plan down, really understanding some of the different curriculum that's out there and even looking ahead and saying, yeah, for next year we want to do this, this and this.
Yep.
Whatever those things may be, that may be just the
Yeah.
fun stuff, or maybe you want to stick with that same curriculum. I've been a big
Yeah.
curriculum changer, very eclectic in my
Yeah.
homeschooling.
And, um, and just knowing that, like, for the overwhelmed mom, we should always be thorough and be diligent in our planning, but it's okay if sometimes our planning is like retroactive. We know that we did A, B, and C, and we did that with excellence. These pieces were a little bit messy. Look back. If you look back and we approached education with excellence, even if we weren't like totally organized, you can look back and go, oh, but we read that book. We did that project. We went on that field trip. Grandma came and taught us this. Remember that movie that we watched? That really, like, that documentary was so cool. It taught us all this stuff. So you can be retroactive in your planning a little bit that way if you need to be.
So the House is a great resource for anything to do with home education. So Corey, share a little bit
Mhm.
about so you have a brick and mortar store
We
somewhere
do.
in
We do.
Ontario. So share about where that is, what can be found on the website. Obviously products, but I think you have some. I mean, I think there might
Yeah.
be some other things there
Yeah.
that are good to
We
look at.
do lots of stuff. So I'll start with the books. We do have a brick and mortar store here in Ontario. If you're nearby, come visit. If you're driving through, we have lots of families who are like driving through Ontario, had to stop at the Learning House. We're about an hour north of Toronto in Bradford. We got 7,300 square feet and we got gobs and gobs and gobs of books, and it's a ton of fun. We have just so much fun here every day. Families come in, we've got tables set up with chairs. You can just like pull all the stuff off the shelf and look through things. And there's a place for the kids to play. And we got the train table and all the other things. Like, it's a super fun, relaxing place to come and look through things. And if it's your jam to make your plan here, we have moms that will come like on their own or with like a group, and they'll just spend the day and make their plans. We also have our online store, knowing that the majority of our families that we serve are like all across Canada and you can't come into the store. We work really hard to make sure that there's as much information for you as possible on our website. So we have nearly 10,000 items listed on our website, all of the different subjects for K to 12. We do vet our materials to make sure that we feel that they are appropriate for a Christian homeschooling family. I want to always acknowledge that not every Christian homeschooling family is going to have the same thresholds for appropriateness. So always keep that lens on while you're looking at things. And know that we serve families of all different faith backgrounds and secular families as well, and that we do find resources that are appropriate for them that have a more neutral religious stance. So know that that's available as well. As you're looking through stuff on the website, you'll find that we always have pictures and descriptions. And as much as possible, we really pester our vendors and publishers and authors to give us samples, knowing that most of our families can't come in store. So look on the little tab that says view details, and there should be samples or placement tests or a scope and sequence or even a table of contents. And sometimes there's videos that give you a walkthrough. We do as much as we can to put those kind of resources on the site so that you get a good look at what's there. That's the books. And again, the books are our conduit to serving families, but our primary function is to serve families and helping them to raise up their children in the way that they should go. So we do that with other things like showing up at the conferences and teaching at conferences all across the country. I do seminars and have taught at probably every conference from BC to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. I've been all across the country, and I love that chance to meet in person. When we can't meet in person, we have courses online, 2 courses in particular that are available right now. our new to homeschooling course, Homeschooling for Newbies. It's a short course you can just purchase. You can watch it online. And it's going to answer your top 10 questions, kind of, and go through some of the things about starting out with homeschooling across Canada. And the other course is called Help for Homeschooling High School. And it's a deep dive into preparing and walking through and finishing homeschool in high school. So we talk about planning a program in general, about choosing curriculum, about keeping records, about making transcripts and report cards, about post-secondary pathways and what it looks like to prepare for and apply for and get entrance to post-secondary institutions across Canada and even some international schools that we talk to. That whole course is comes with like a whole bunch of videos and templates and samples and all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of our big course that could help you to prepare for and do high school. We also do Q&As. We do stuff like this where we're meeting one-on-one with people who can serve you. So you can watch for Q&As and for short webinars and broadcasts that we do on our Facebook page or that we would advertise through emails and Facebook and stuff like that. And we've also done all kinds of videos that you can find on our site and on that we're still kind of populating on our website in our new website, but we've done a whole bunch of new videos with authors and publishers that just help you to see like what is this product? Let's have a walkthrough of it. How would I use it to help you again to make sure that you make right educational choices for your family, and that we're like one of our big deal things is to help you to make sure you don't buy junk you don't need. I want to help you to get the resources that serve your family and not to fill up your shelves with a bunch of stuff that's not going to be useful.
A little bit of that. I got a little bit of stuff on my shelf that's not so useful. And I'm keeping it there. Some stuff I've gotten rid of. It's like, yeah, okay, we didn't use this, but
There's a tremendous value in those resources that we use for a time or that we use for a bit. There's actually studies out there that say that like even if you don't read all the books on your shelf, if you have a lot of books on your shelf, are more academically like likely more academically ahead of students who don't have books in their homes. And because there's something about being able to strew those things, to look through them and to be able to use parts of them, but that's another story. There's value in those resources that we use parts of.
yeah, yeah. So the Learning House has tons of stuff there. I actually didn't even know about some of those. I didn't know you had those courses, so we might have to share that out
Yeah.
to our membership and on our social media because I think those would be very actually the one there was even interesting to me. I'm so big into planning now, and I'm a pretty good planner. Like I'm pretty just creating those things on my own. But there's always so
Yeah.
many good tips that other people have.
Yeah.
It's like wow, I never even thought of
Yeah.
doing it that way. That's so much easier. So
Yeah, we try and do the Help for Homeschooling High School course every year live in February,
oh yes,
both
I have
in
heard of
person
that.
and online. But we record it because there's so many people that afterwards say, "Oh, I missed it," or "I can't wait until next year. I need to get on this." And so we have the recordings and the physical books that go with it.
Oh, that's awesome. So we
Yeah.
also have on our website homeschool.today. So just the word homeschool, one word, dot today. And there is a workshop that was done. It was done a couple of years ago, but it's still quite relevant called Choosing Curriculum. So I've got the link for that right here in the video. We've also got our Getting Started section because that is probably the most common time. Good to get that curriculum check throughout your homeschooling journey, but it is the most
Mhm.
popular time when you may be looking for how to choose the right curriculum when you're getting started. So we have a whole getting started section about a bunch of different topics that are good to know about if you are in that stage of getting started. And then of course our magazine that we put out that is good for every homeschooler, every person thinking about homeschooling. And in fact, the whole general public should read this.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job with that.
It was a really, really fun magazine to put together. It was really fun content to bring together. That's kind of what it is, and just the way that it fell together, and the topics came up, and what got in there is just yeah. I think that was just God's work right there. It really seemed to be something better than we even planned
Mhm.
to begin with. So that was beautiful. You can find that one then at hslda.ca /cc-guide. So
Mhm,
I hope that this gave you some things to look into, some new resources that maybe you'd like to access, and just a little bit of maybe calm if you're feeling like this homeschooling thing is too much. I don't know if I can do this. I hope any of those and many other concerns or questions you had about choosing curriculum were covered here. But if not, know that you can always go to the Learning House. You can contact Cori on her
mhm,
website, and you can do that the same for HSLDA, especially if
mhm.
you're a member. There's certain services that you get as far as helping you along, but even if you're not a member, maybe you want to look at those member services and see if that's right for you.